Hello everyone! For this week's review, I'm presenting you with a comedy. A rare event on this channel. I don't review comedies much, mainly because I don't want to dissect them and ruin all of the jokes. But from time to time, I like to share my thoughts on an old favorite or uncover a lesser-known gem. So today, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about 1948's Unfaithfully Yours, a dark romantic comedy written, produced, and directed by Preston Sturges. Rex Harrison plays world-famous British conductor Sir Alfred de Carter, who is happily married to his American wife Daphne, played by Linda Darnell. They're one of those too-much PDA couples, all over each other at airports, always canoodling at home, making mushy eyes at each other. He lavishes her with gifts and flowers and expensive gowns, despite her good-natured protests. They are the picture of wedded bliss. But while he's away on a trip, his stuffy brother-in-law, August, played by Rudy Vallee, takes his passing remark to keep an eye on my wife literally. And when Sir Alfred returns, August plants a seed of doubt in his mind regarding his wife's fidelity, and that doubt starts to drive him a little crazy. I saw Unfaithfully Yours just once over 10 years ago, but it always stuck with me. It's an unusual film, a bit hard to categorize because every act is so different. It opens like a rom-com, then it gets really shockingly dark, and then it turns brilliantly funny and almost farcical. Preston Sturges was and continues to be a popular filmmaker whose comedies often had zany scenarios, smart dialogue, and creatively unlikely plot twists. Earlier films he wrote but did not direct include Easy Living, If I Were King, Remember the Night, and Christmas in July. But he's most associated with the ones he also directed, like Sullivan's Travels, The Lady Eve, The Palm Beach Story, and Unfaithfully Yours. I have seen all of the films I just mentioned, and Unfaithfully Yours is my favorite. I enjoy the fantasy versus reality set-to-music aspect, I think the characters are well cast, and I find the final third of the movie so stinkin' funny. The middle section is Sir Alfred's concert, and he spends the entire performance imagining 3 different ways he might deal with his domestic situation. Each new sequence begins with a prolonged zoom-in on Harrison's eyeball, and the ensuing fantasy is accompanied by whatever piece Sir Alfred is conducting. Featured are compositions by Tchaikovsky, Wagner, and Rossini. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably know that I love Tchaikovsky, and as a kid, I fell in love with Wagner's Tannhauser Overture, and not just because I knew it from the Looney Tunes cartoon What's Opera Doc. But the Rossini selections are the scene stealers here, I think, especially the random employment of the William Tell Overture in one particularly hectic scene. What starts out as a romantic comedy becomes a black comedy, and one so dark and twisted that I feel I ought to warn people. There's a scene that I would bet would put some viewers off, especially more sensitive modern viewers who would not respond well to a few things here. And the scene may make Sir Alfred's already irascible character seem irredeemable. But I would argue that there's such a bombastic tone that it's obvious you're not supposed to take any of this too seriously. And then it veers in the screwball comedy direction. Sir Alfred attempts to take swift, decisive action, but finds that what he imagined is quite different from how things come together in real life. And how relatable is that? In our fantasies, we're smooth, quick, and cunning, but in reality, we're a chaotic mess, and nothing goes right. This part of the movie is wonderful, in my opinion. The escalation is brilliant, and I'm impressed that the humor balances between subtlety and slapstick for as long as it does. The humor does run throughout the film. The first part has lots of fast, funny dialogue. Sir Alfred's lines are perfect for Harrison's speedy but verbose conversation style. The more he expostulates, the more English and erudite he becomes, using 50 words to communicate what could be said in 15. So I had a couple good laughs earlier on. But it's the final third where I just lost it. And the exact same thing happened the first time I saw the movie over a decade ago. This is why I remember the movie so well, because it made me laugh so hard. And I'm talking chortling, cackling laughter where you can't breathe, and then you haven't laughed that hard in such a long time that, like, now your insides are being shaken up and you start hacking up a lung and then tears are squirting out of your eyes. I make it sound really disgusting. The humor gets progressively more physical, and it's amusing to watch Harrison's tall, skinny figure in evening clothes tripping all over things. But the funniest thing to me is how insane the whole situation becomes. The thing is snowballing and just getting worse and worse, and yet he keeps on going. Now, you might be hearing my reaction and thinking, ugh, I've got to see this movie. And if you want to see it, I definitely recommend checking it out. But keep in mind that mileage may vary. What I find funny, some of you might not find humorous at all. It's hard to recommend a comedy to a broad audience of strangers because comedy is one of the most subjective genres. And that's another reason why I don't like to review comedies so much, because one person's funny is another person's annoying or stupid or whatever. And honestly, I don't think that I would want to watch this movie too often myself. I have a feeling I wouldn't find it as funny if I became too familiar with it. Once every 12 years or so is good. As fondly as I remembered the movie, there was a lot I had forgotten. Like the sound effects. Preston Sturges added some goofy sound effects over things, which was a quirky choice. It gives it a more cartoony feel. Odd sound effects added in post always reminds me of the bizarre sound effects in 1949's DOA. I can't remember if it's a wolf whistle or an auga, or there might also be a slide whistle and a clownish honk in that, but there are some noises added that are just really strange in a film noir about a man finding out he's just been poisoned and is going to die soon. Here, at least, the sound effects feel appropriate, and they're just another form of exaggeration in a movie that's all about exaggeration. Is Sir Alfred a hero or a villain? Tough to say. He's an Othello type. A good guy, highly respected in his profession, crazy in love with his doting young wife, who gets bitten by the green-eyed monster and goes kinda nuts. Although you feel some sympathy for him, he's not really a likable character, especially at certain times. His first response is the way you hope a loyal, trusting husband would react. But when confronted with details, he swings from one extreme to the other, and that's what gets him in trouble. It never occurs to him to ask his wife if the story is true. Now, Rex Harrison and Linda Darnell both have interesting personal histories. Since I'm not looking to make a downer of a video here, and I also don't care to spread celebrity gossip even when the celebrities are long dead, I would rather not go into that. But it should be acknowledged that this film came out at a sticky time for Rex Harrison when he was embroiled in the Carol Landis scandal. In 1948, he allegedly had an affair with actress Carol Landis, though he later denied the relationship. On July 5th, she was found dead of a drug overdose. The death was ruled a suicide, and the most common belief is that she killed herself because Harrison refused to divorce his then-wife Lily Palmer in order to marry Landis. Harrison was the last to see her alive, and, along with her maid, the first to see her dead. Moreover, he waited several hours to contact the authorities. Obviously, that was suspicious, hence the scandal, which resulted in bad publicity, which made 20th Century Fox terminate his contract, leading him to seek refuge in England for the next several years. Unfaithfully Yours came out in December of 1948, just 6 months after Carol Landis's death. So it's more than likely that moviegoers who paid attention to gossip columns, or even if they didn't, they would remember Harrison's involvement in that case, and, well, if you're familiar with the details at all, there are certain things in the movie that may make you raise an eyebrow. If nothing else, it makes Harrison's portrayal of outraged indignation toward a cheating spouse seem hypocritical. However, I don't believe you necessarily should interpret it that way. Remember, this is a movie. He's an actor playing a character. Linda Darnell had her own troubles. Her personal life was fraught with turmoil and came to a tragic, untimely end. I wish she'd been in more movies because I think she was an entertaining actress. I enjoy her opposite Tyrone Power in 1940's The Mark of Zorro. They had excellent chemistry, and I enjoy her here, giving a more comic performance. Granted, Daphne is not a dynamic character, but I do think she drops hints that there's more to her personality and background than is readily apparent. She certainly looks quite lovely in this. She wears both overly fancy loungewear and extravagant evening gowns. The dress she wears to the concert in particular is an interesting and no doubt intentional choice. The dark color, which could be black or could be red, may imply that she has got a duplicitous nature, that she is up to no good, that she is guilty of adultery. And sensuality is further suggested by the lace trim on the bodice of the dress, and the single glittery strap that's attached at a provocative angle. But the bare neck and shoulders and arms can also suggest vulnerability. She's wearing all this finery, and she wears it well, but she hasn't decorated herself with gaudy accessories. Aside from the elegant, sexy dress, which her husband insisted on getting for her, her appearance is simple. The only other thing going on, which catches your eye immediately, is the sparkly piece adorning her hair. And even that, flashy as it is, has a charming simplicity. Dare I go so far as to say, the accessory, or accessories, I'm not sure if it's one piece or two, in her hair makes me think of Odette, the white swan from Swan Lake. But the dress, which at least appears to be black on black and white film, makes me think of Odile, the evil black swan. I don't know, maybe it's a stretch, but I'm just telling you what I observed. While Harrison, and to a lesser degree Darnell, dominate the film, it is rounded out with a very good supporting cast. Rudy Vallee is quite unlikable as the starchy brother-in-law who causes this whole kerfuffle. He's married to Daphne's younger sister, played by Barbara Lawrence, and she's got a dry, cutting wit. And Sir Alfred's secretary is played by German actor Kurt Kruger, making a happy escape from war movies. He's the one Sir Alfred becomes suspicious of, and if I were a crusty, insecure man, I'd be wary of someone who looks like Kurt Kruger too. Also of note are the delightful side characters, the enthusiastic detective and his tailor friend, and the overzealous cymbal player. Unfaithfully Yours was remade in 1984 with Dudley Moore and Nastasia Kinski. Often when I review an old movie that was later remade, someone will say, now you've got to watch the remake and do a comparison. But I don't want to. I never want to. I've already seen a great movie, and I was perfectly happy with it, and by most accounts, the remake is inferior, and I don't do comparisons like that anyway. So, in this case, as in almost all of the other cases, I'll just stick with the original, thanks. I will tell you, this isn't the most romantic movie. I know Valentine's Day is coming up, and if you're looking for something to watch with your date, maybe this isn't the best choice. But it is a comedy, not a tragedy, so there's that, and it's a lot of fun. I know I enjoyed the heck out of it. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts on this film if you've seen it in the comments below, and I'll be back next week with another review. Thanks for watching.